We gotta get moving. It's the morning. Come on, you stand up with me. Don't make me do it alone. There you go. There you go. Gotta wake up the body. It's Sunday morning. I don't know. I'm not a one. I don't know. My kids laughing at me. Sorry. I did. But we smiled. We're all a little happier now. And that's good.
All right, we've got some people coming in here. So, how many people here, this is their first show with American Handcrafted? Awesome. Congratulations.
Welcome.
And how many people have been exhibiting at this show for quite some time? Awesome. 5 years? Yeah? 10 years? Oh my goodness. Longer than that? Wow, I don't even know how long this show's been going on. So
It wasn't this show.
but it was
Yeah. Or then there was Acre before.
Yeah.
You know, this was
American Craft.
well, that's very exciting. Well, I know it's early, so I really appreciate you all coming, but one of my favorite things to do is to have a panel discussion. And I am very privileged today to be here with these amazing gentlemen. And I'll give you a little rundown about myself for those of you who don't know who I am. My name is Robin Kramer, and I have Red Boot Consulting. I have a history of being in retail and wholesale. My whole career has been in the fashion and gift industry. My mom had a store. My uncle was in the industry. He was in the rag business. He was in the clothing business. And so I kind of grew up with this. And I love product. I really love product. So any chance I could get to go to a show or art fair, or craft fair, I would go because I just am fascinated. I am not a designer in any way, shape, or form, so I really appreciate all of what you all do. And I love your stories. And I think I went from corporate retail to the wholesale side of things because I fell in love with handmade product. And I fell in love with the story of it too. And what you all are doing is amazing and incredible to me and to many other people as well. And we're living in an ever-changing economy. And what's really wonderful right now is that stories matter. Department stores are suffering, but boutiques are really growing because there is that element of story and community. So I think it's a really exciting time, and it's wonderful. I've heard some good things about yesterday's show, so may it continue today. And I'm, as I said, really thrilled and honored to be here with these handsome gentlemen to my right, who I met all of them through trade shows, really. And that's another bonus about a trade show, is you meet wonderful people who become lifelong friends. So I'm going to introduce you and tell you a little bit about them, and I picked them specifically because of their knowledge in the industry. And we're going to be talking about brands and how brands are created, and it goes beyond your logo. It really is everything you do should have your brand values and thought about what you're trying to convey to your audience, to your customers. So to my immediate right, I have Howard Schwartz, who we met at a trade show when I was with Dog Eared Jewelry, and that was, I think, in 2007 we met because he's very good friends with the owners of Dog Eared, and I was like, wow, this is a super cool person. And we both lived in LA. I was in LA at the time, and he is a nurturer, so he will help you in whatever you need. I think that's one of his talents there. But he was an actor, so and I think because you're so incredibly sincere and nurturing, that you're calling to what you do product-wise, and we'll get into that because I want you to share personally what it is, what your product is all about. But you also have had a retail store. You have 3 children, which is a job in itself.
Each one.
Yes. And to have this business, you're in business with your wife.
Yeah.
And I find that always amazing. I've worked with a lot of couples who have business together. So I think that's, to me, I don't know if I could do that, but I think that's really amazing to have talents, each one of them to have their talents and come together to have successful business. And you have had your business since?
This business, 1999. First business we started 25 years ago, making candles in our apartment. Just learned how to take an idea and then monetize it. And it was just sort of this perfect confluence between this couple of people that love business, love creativity, and love the idea of being creatively in business and the business of being creative. And we just sort of keep on finding it and figuring it out along the way.
And he has a beautiful message with everything that you do. In fact, I remember when I resigned from Dog Ear to start my consulting, Howard gave me a blessing ring and a travel blessing, and I still have them. So it's amazing how that,
it's about branding. For us, it's about storytelling, like what you're talking about, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So we'll get into a little bit more of that. And to his right, we have Eric Shea, and and
not sure if my microphone's working.
Can you hear me?
I love this. So Eric and I met last year at this show, and what I'm really excited about is because packaging is such an essential part of business, and the company he works with, Packaging Specialties, does it beautifully. How many people here use Packaging Specialties? Okay. Well, you're going to want to visit.
We need all of you by the end of the meeting.
That's right. So if you haven't visited him, he has a booth as you walk in. It's really worth checking out. He does it exceptionally well, and they can do a lot of custom work too. So I'm excited to have Eric here. Not only does he come with a wealth of knowledge in the packaging industry, he had a retail business in travel, and I'm excited to learn more about that. So when you had a retail store in Massachusetts, and you're still living in Massachusetts, and can you tell a little bit more going retail into the packaging?
It was a really good experience. I've worked for Packaging Specialties for 24 years. I started out, I was offered a job, and they said, oh, we're going to put you on the road and you're going to sell bags. And I was like, no, who wants to do that? It turned out to be an amazing career. I've met so many great people. I've had so many great experiences. And over the course of those years, I actually have bought 2 retail stores. I live on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and in that community, I bought several stores over time. And the interesting thing about it is they were successful stores in themselves. They were customers of mine. I worked still doing packaging, and I bought the stores. And basically, when I bought them, one of the biggest things I did was not try and reinvent the wheel, but I rebranded them. So I invested I invested a fair amount of money into the packaging and the brand and the logo, and I kind of just took everything that was already there but made it something new. And that, it's amazing how far that actually took those stores. I sold both of those stores for a nice profit after time, and a lot of it had to do with just branding, because people would come into the stores and they were just like, I want to get that bag, I want to get that gift, and they would literally, it's a cost thing. You have to understand. I mean, packaging costs money. It's not free. Everybody comes up to me and says, oh my God, how much is a bag? Well, it is. They're getting more and more expensive, but your name is going out there. You can take an ad out in the paper and it can be $400 or $500. It's gone the next day. Your bag can last for years. I mean, people reuse that stuff. So it's, in my eyes, it's simple. It's branding. You either do it or you don't. And I say, listen, you can go into a store and they give you a plastic thank you bag that says thank you. And that store's not going to be around too much longer. So that's my take on the brand.
You have a little bit of passion around it.
I do. I think it's important, I really do. So anybody, even if you're a designer, you want your name out there. You want your name in lights. And that's what it's all about. That's why you do it.
Absolutely. So, well, I'm excited to learn more about you and your wealth of knowledge of being in the industry for a
Well,
long
thank
time.
you for having me. I know I'm only here because of Nick. And
Hey,
I don't even have cute cards.
Paul has cue cards.
I gotta say, like, one of the things that pisses me off is that Eric, I had no idea about that. Like, if I had gotten bags years ago, how my life would have been so much different.
You would be so much wealthier. I mean, you
wouldn't be
buying
happy.
and selling stores. It's crazy.
By the way, I got to know Eric better selling to him.
Yes,
You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I was one of the people that.
Very good salesperson.
And you never know what happens in the industry. The fact that Paul was actually selling to him his product to his travel store. So it's really amazing how this all kind of comes full circle. So always be nice to everybody, right?
Yeah.
That's my 5th card. No joke.
Be nice.
Right.
I
He
love
thought
it.
all this out. He has all of his answers already. I don't even know what I'm going to say.
I can just sum it up. Come out and see me. We're going to sell you bags with your name on it.
There's Brandon.
It's going to be amazing.
Well, I love this. This is nothing like having a good time first thing in the morning, right? Better than the morning coffee. So to Eric's right is Paul Stewart-Stand, who is secretly my brother, actually. Brother from
23 and
another
me
mother.
told us that.
So, but I met Paul at a trade show, and we were down the same aisle, and I thought, oh my gosh, I always came to you for questions and would ask, like, what are you guys doing? Because their brand was so on point. They really, from the look of your booth, which was always evolving, they were always kind of changing it up, really trying to make it stand out, and always so impressed by that. So, and really having a product that was not only aesthetically pleasing, but also had some multi-uses to it, and protection aspect of it too, for your protecting your credit card. So Paul is also really brilliant when it comes to numbers. He kind of keeps you. He's my voice of reason a lot of times, where I'll be going off and he'll be like, whoa, but how are you doing this? And what kind of financial commitments are there, and all of that stuff. So he reins me in, and he reins a lot of other people in. And his lovely wife Nick is here too, and she's shaking her head, yes. So she's with me on that. So Paul has had Stewart-Stand for
17 years.
17 years, and in addition does consulting as well. And why don't you talk about your experience, because you kind of fell into Stewart-Stand as far as the getting into the product,
The brand. I was born a Stewart-Stand.
Yes, you were born as Stewart-Stand, but and you had a retail store too.
Yeah, we had a couple for a while. So I started my business basically because I couldn't get a job. So my brother designed cufflinks, and so we started developing them in Rhode Island, and the business evolved from there. I just to take a step back, I find it to be one of life's great ironies that I'm sitting on the stage with the two of you and Rob. So and thank you all for coming out this morning. But my brother's a very creative person, and I was sort of had the dubious honor of being the kind of the business side of the business. And but about, I guess, 13, 14 years ago, he developed what it was a brilliant concept. The whole idea of data and privacy protection in wallets, and we developed stainless steel wallets, which we sold to Eric for many years. But when we first introduced them, and this category of accessories has become something quite large and global. But it started out as a little concept, and when we first started selling it, people would say, "Why do we need this?" And I just, my perspective was the world doesn't need another leather wallet, and so we had really focused on differentiation, and so telling our story over the years and how it has evolved became very important for us. So we've had a lot of fun with that, and it's gotten us very involved in different zones of business, and one of which has been the museum space, which I know many of you are involved in as well. So I've served on the the board of the Museum Store Association. I was involved in launching Museum Store Sunday. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that, but that was a wonderful project where we developed the branding and the messaging for that, and that's grown to 1,000 museums, across I think 10 or 13 countries, in 2 years. And so I just love, being able to, just get involved in fun concepts, projects, super amorphous kind of ideas, and kind of distilling them down into just great, tangible products and messages. So that's what I've had fun with.
And if you're not familiar with the Museum Store Association, I highly recommend that you check them out and sign up for their newsletters, because they're great, and it does tell you about different museums, and maybe they're interviewing a buyer and just kind of their perspective. And museums, I feel, are getting just this resurgence. The stores are getting better, the buyers are better, and it's really exciting. So I think that's.
And from a numbers perspective, they're hard to disappear.
Right.
Net 30, it's as good as gold, and so it's a great category business. Very stable.
So I think that's really cool. It's really fun to see. So, as you can tell, a wealth of knowledge up here and a great sense of humor too, which I love. So, Howard, I would love to know more about the branding aspect of your business. And you've been in the industry a long time, and Whitney's really the designer, and you're the storyteller. You're really good at that. And you have an incredible, I've had the privilege of seeing his studio, and really seeing how his employees they love them. And I think that is a tough thing. It's tough to find employees, and it's tough to keep them engaged and excited. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about how your brand also is instilled in your people that work with you.
Thanks, Robin.
You're welcome.
I think brand is different for everybody. For me, my interpretation of brand evolves as my market and opportunities evolve. Branding is really marketing. It's marketing of a story. That's the definition of branding. And today, now more than ever, that's what leads, is the story. There's a million different, 500 some odd different artists here, but what makes each of you and all of us unique is what people are buying. There was a period of time when people wanted to buy a pretty necklace or a pretty dress, but they actually want to know who made the pretty necklace and who made that pretty dress now. And because the internet is this wonderful place to tell the whole story in a way we've never had before, the opportunity for branding is endless. And so I think you need to be mindful of evolving your brand mine is based on a value system, our mission statement of being American made, of being handcrafted, of having a family value, giving back to our community, giving back not because we want to be in business of giving back, but just because we want to give. And we give to give, not give to get. And so the way I've packaged who we are is telling that and talking about that. And that allows me to stand out in a hall full of a bunch of people that are creators. We're all creative people, but what at the end of the day have you created, and how are you going to get it to somebody? It's really cool to invent an idea, but it's only worth it if you do something with it. And so branding and marketing, that's my mantra. And the more I can perceive people to see us as who we are, even myself is part of my brand. It's not just my product, but I've identified my branding as me, it's my wife, it's my family, and I've encapsulated all those things. I'm not saying that that's what everyone's brand identity needs to be by any stretch of the imagination, but it's understanding your responsibility of being a creator is not just being creative. You have to be in the business of telling people how you create, what you create, and why you create it. And that's what people are going to pay attention to. And you can videotape it, you can write it, blog it, you can post it, you can advertise it. But I think more than ever, people are conscious of what you're saying about yourself is what they're buying. And we focus heavily on that identity.
I would also say that podcasts are kind of a big deal now, and vlogging. So if you're interviewed by somebody, it's another great way to get your message out there and to promote your brand. There are a lot of a lot of people out there that are curious, like me, who want to know the stories.
You have to know who you want to brand to. You have to start with a marketing strategy. Branding starts with understanding who your ultimate customer is your primary focus, to discover who your avatar, in today's world, an avatar, an ICA, your identity character that you're creating for yourself. When you identify that, then you can discuss how you can brand to that person. But you can't know who you want. You can't brand to everybody. I want to sell my stuff to everybody. I want you all to be my friend, right? But I can't have it that way. So I have to be mindful of just being who I am and what I'm capable of being, and hoping that attracts people through what I'm branding and telling about.
And the more narrowed, and the more you can identify who that avatar, who that dream client is, the easier everything gets.
Yeah.
It really helps narrow, and you get to market to them. And it's not saying other people can't buy from you. It's just really being clear on who your ideal customer is.
And you really, I think one of the most important things, and I was talking to somebody earlier, this wonderful gal over here, and we're apprehensive about being involved in technology, the internet. I was going to piss off my customers, and now I got to learn a whole new nomenclature of blah, 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 blah. Well, the reality is it's all real, and it's here, and if you're not in it, you're already behind, and that's it. You need to understand how to do Instagram, and you need to be blogging. And I don't care if you are the most prettiest, beautiful jewelry maker, or you're a scarf maker and you make it in some special way. If you want to sell your product today, you need to blog about it, you need to put pictures on Instagram. Those are some of the first two most important places you need to learn how to be in. And that helps you succeed, at least in the idea of branding today, the way we brand. Beyond that, it's endless.
To be relevant, for sure.
Relevant.
So, Eric, with being part of a company that really is all about branding, have you seen things kind of evolve and, helping retailers and designers get their message across through their branding?
Well, I was just listening to Howard, and I think the biggest thing that I can say is that in my job really is to take the brand and push it as far as I can. And again, you're saying it's about blogging, it's about getting your name out there, it's getting your name in lights. And basically what it comes down to, if you think, and it always goes back to this example, it's one of the biggest examples that there is, but if you think of Tiffany's, you think of Tiffany's and their aqua blue box and their aqua blue bag, and everybody knows that.
It's true.
So in my business, everybody wants to be Tiffany's. And whether you're a retailer or if you're in the audience and you're actually a jeweler or you're a designer or you have your business or you have a retail store, your ultimate goal is to have your name in lights, to have people on the street talking about you. Let's go to that store, let's buy that piece of jewelry that person makes. So it's really, really important to consider that part of your overall business plan and make sure that you're dedicating time and effort to that. Now, whether it's buying a box and having your name put on it, if it's buying a bag, having your name put on it, but even as Howard said, it's getting out there and presenting that online to the audience worldwide now, and that's really important. Even with Paul's product line, I mean, when I had the store, I bought wallets from him, and it was Stewart-Stand. I mean, it was like you presented it in the case, you had the display signs. I mean, this is the wallet line that you talk about, and you told everybody this is what it does and this is why to buy it. I mean, there's a million wallets out there, but you want to buy a Stewart-Stand wallet because it does this, this, and this. And I think you guys always did a great job, from the presentation at the shows to the follow-up to the box that it came in. I mean, that is literally what it's about. And I know there's plenty of people that are out here that I actually sell to. Part of doing the show is fun because not only am I just selling to people that have stores or galleries, but I'm selling to jewelers that can come out and say, hey, I want my name on the box and this is what I'm gonna do. And they're just constantly looking at promoting their brand. So I think that's really, really important in today's day and age, to make that part of your business model.
Hey, can I add to that? I think there's a general I use the term stickiness, and stickiness refers to as many times as you can stick yourself in front of a customer, the better. There's actually statistics that says 12 times. 9 to 12 times is the amount of times that you have to be prepared to brand and market to a customer to achieve a sale. Sometimes it happens in first, and sometimes it never happens. So to your point about packaging, packaging is one of those perfect 12 ways. We ship out all of our boxes, and we made stickers that say Whitney Howard Designs and put some cool stuff on it. Every one of my boxes and every one of my invoices has a sticker on it. I pay 10 cents a sticker, and I have my brand in front of people out on the box. My UPS guy knows my boxes because they have my green sticker on it. So branding is not just blogging, advertising, markets. One of the 12 ways is critically is the way you package and present yourself.
It's very important.
It is.
I mean, it's just constantly being in front of the person.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's a perceived value.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big thing people don't realize, but when you create that image, whether you're a small, very small store or a very small, jeweler or a potter or a glass, when you create your brand, you're just growing it that way. You don't have to be huge, you don't have to be enormous, but you can actually put your name out there and just grow it and grow it and grow it. Just, as we were saying, I mean, it's important to keep reinforce your brand, reinforce your brand, reinforce your brand, and make people appreciate what you're giving them. So I think that's
I think to your point of you don't have to be a Tiffany's, but you want that you want that same reaction to your customer. So your customer might not be the customer that shops at Tiffany's, but you want them to have the same experience. So when they receive what you have, they get that excitement. They're like, oh my gosh, it's from my favorite jeweler, or it's from my favorite glass blower, or it's you want to have that feeling. You said about with Paul and with Stewart-Stand that they did a great job of packaging, they did a great job of presenting, they did a great job of relationship building. I know this is something that Howard works on as well. And when I was staying with Paul and Nick for an extended amount of time, that I got to witness some of the things they did, where they'd send a little note on the invoice, or they put in a little card that said something. Those little extra things that go directly, to the customer of like, we loved seeing you, or, giving maybe even a small % discount because they've been shopping with them and hit a certain number, that it said just because, it's the unexpected surprise and delight. And that also helps with instilling like who you are and the integrity and your branding. And Paul, I'd love for you to kind of talk about that, your brand message, and kind of building that strong relationship with your customers.
Eric's looking at me like, why didn't I ever get one of those discounts?
I'm just wondering how he's going to respond, because I don't on his note cards here.
I wasn't aware of that question. Sorry. It's coffee. I mean, focusing on relationships, I think, for me, this business, what's made it, it's hard. What we do is difficult. Traveling, trade shows, the business of design. And so, the relationships, in the room, that we're kind of fighting the same fight, those of us that, that make, product, but also, on the retail side, that, there's some inherent tension in the relationship, with retailers. We want them to buy more and they don't want to pay for it. So it's, that can be difficult. But, one of the things that we've, always found, it's more important to have a good relationship, that I never wanted to sell people product they didn't want. I never wanted to oversell them and then have them, avoid me at the next show. And so one of the things that I've always found really gratifying is, hearing, from folks like Eric, that, once we ship the product, once we kind of do the pitch, write the order, that then that message then carries on, to the end user, is really gratifying. So, that's, I don't think he's a unicorn. So I think, there's other retailers like him. But I think the other thing that I've always found, with the relationships, that it's been nice when, at a show, somebody like Eric would come in the booth and I'd be busy or Nick would be busy and he could pick up an order form and write his own order. That we've sort of simplified things to the extent that it makes it easy for a retailer to understand. And so that's, so in terms of, when you look at and be sort of analytical about, the pain points for retailers and how we can address those and, make things easy, we've always found that helped the relationship. And then, if Eric ever came in the booth and, would actually talk about the product to a prospective customer, and I'm using Eric as just, insert my tail.
I just happened to be there.
He wasn't there often, but when he did, he would just kind of fly in. But it's, for me, after 17 years, there's a lot of things one could sell in industries, and so I think, retail is something unique, and the relationships have kept me engaged all this time.
I think there's an expectation to religion. Relationships, they seem like religions. Sometimes relationships, because relationships have changed. There used to be the idea that you'd have a relationship alive, interpersonal relationship with people face to face, or you'd pick up a phone, or you'd write a letter. Today, a relationship there's a new relationship. It's the relationship you have with people online. And I don't mean to beat certain ideas up, but on Instagram or on social media, if you're doing any of those things and you're not replying to people who are doing posts, you're not building a relationship. You need to be building relationships in every one of those places to create stickiness. Just remember the many different places, through packaging, through good, cheerful things to send to people just becauses, replying to people in emails. It's all of that critical communication that you're doing with people that make your relationship and put your brand in front of people always. We have too many distractions, too much information, not enough knowledge. And the only way you're going to stand out is to make sure you build a relationship with each and every one of those people that give themselves to you. Electronic emails, whatever it takes. Keep in touch with people. Build relationships. They want that.
Yeah, and just something to add that, a lot of times, the other thing is, we have this assumption a certain percentage of what we do is going to be bad, right? There's an acceptable tolerance. So when folks reach out, something broke, something, whatever it is, that, it happens, and that, you can really build meaningful relationships with customers by just responding, and perhaps a lot of times they're crazy, and I can show you my favorite email on the planet that I've ever gotten. It is the most profanity-laced. It is a gem of a customer service email, and I didn't respond. But with customer service, that is, I think one of the best ways that we've been able to reinforce our brand and our message is just being human, because I think everybody just assumes every company that makes something is a huge company that's inhuman, and then you realize that, oh, I'm sorry for your, I'm sorry is the most disarming customer service response ever, and then you figure out a solution, and it happens with retailers all the time. And I think just, being human is really important nowadays.
Absolutely.
In this digital era, Howard.
Yes.
And I do want to remind a couple of things, that because we're in this digital age where everyone can reach you in every way, shape, and form, pick one thing. I mean, you don't have to be on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest. If you want a presence on all of them, that's fine. Just make sure you are able to manage them. So I know, just for the visual side of things, that Instagram seems to be like it when it comes to images, but also know what works for your customer. Your customer may be on Pinterest, and that's where you get the most engagement, but don't, I always worry about y'all spreading yourself too thin. Unless you have that support to help you manage that, don't overextend yourself. So really look at what medium is, which social media is going to benefit for you the best. The other thing I love that you said, make it easy for the customer. Make it super easy. Make sure you're at your booth that you've got pricing out there, that they're not like getting, if you're busy and they can't see what the prices are on your line sheets, make sure that you have your wholesale prices there. Make sure you have all the information that they need to place an order. Things that when I was at Dog Eared, I used to write up orders for people because I knew they were busy. I would communicate with my buyers and I'd say, I'd love to get your sales report. And they would send them to me and they'd be so excited that they didn't have to write anything up. And I said, just feel free to change the quantity. I did it based on past sales. I did it on the reports you gave me. I want to make this simple for you. I also loved what you said about saying, I'm sorry. I also think in addition to that, saying thank you goes a long way. So thank you for letting me know, because if you don't know something, how do you fix it, right? And so even if somebody comes at you in a not a very nice way, thank you for letting me know. I think also one of the biggest things I see is that people are intimidated by reaching out because they're afraid that their product isn't selling. But here's the deal, if you don't know anything about it, how do you come up with a solution to it too? So by knowing, you don't have to take it all back. You can work with your buyer to actually say, okay, let's see what we can do about a solution, because I want to help you, because I know you love the product. Let's work together. Maybe I come and do a trunk show. Maybe there's some more signage. Maybe the video that I just shot would be helpful. But coming up and being a partner, because I really look at these relationships that you have with your buyers are partnerships. And let me put it this way, if they're not buying, they're buying from somebody, right? And they have a store, or online store, they need to sell product. So if you're in front of them and you have a relationship with them, that's amazing that you're doing. So be a good partner and let them, you guys work together on that. So don't be afraid to call. One of my favorite things to do, I know it's old school, but picking up the phone and calling, and even just saying, how are you doing? It doesn't always have to be about a sale. In fact, my title at Dog-Eared was Director of Sales, and I really felt like it should be Director of Relationships, because I can tell you, I was never a salesperson. I was always about, tell me about your store. What are you looking for? What is your magic price point? Ask questions and listen, and then ask a few more questions and listen even more, because you want to help them, and without product, they don't have a business. So it's really a nice relationship that you're creating. So thank you goes a long way, and let's see what we can do to make this better. Let's see what we can do to help. So don't be afraid of that. And then packaging too. I know that packaging is really important. We've talked about it, but think ahead of with these holidays coming up. We just had Valentine's Day, but Mother's Day is coming around. Then there's Father's Day, there's graduation, there's wedding season. Come up with some packages. Again, you may not sell them, but it's another way to get in front of people. We've created these great packages. So just some ideas for that. I get very excited talking about ways to help your buyer, but also to get your name out there. Because like you said, it's 9 to 12, 7 to 10. It takes a long time to get that memory. And you think about when you meet somebody for the first time, unless you sit there and have an intense conversation and really spend time, you're in a split second, how are you going to stick in their mind? So I love that you brought that up, because especially in today's era, in today's world, if somebody gets on your website, how do you capture them? How do you bring them in? Because there's so much noise, what is that, web noise or whatever out there. So again, how do you do that? I'd love to ask all of you, do you have anything that when it comes to branding that an exhibitor should really take a look at, maybe at a show specifically that you all have found being, exhibiting, that really helps with talking to buyers and creating that relationship? Maybe it is through the branding of the booth, or maybe it's a way that you're engaging with them. Mm-hmm. How are you doing that?
I think it gets back to the technology, the avatar that I see. It's knowing the identity of the person you're trying to sell to. We can't sell to everybody, but I guarantee most of you sell to very similar people. They're the ones that are commonly writing the orders. We're at this show, so we know we're getting a lot of galleries, a lot of museums. We know that a demographic about this person who's buying. Knowing and having an understanding of that gives you an ability to be able to develop a communication and messaging that attracts that person. So for me, at my shows, I have Made in America. I mean, that's so huge. I have that as much as I can. I try to. I don't have to do it at this show, so it's because everyone knows that's why we're here. Literally, that's the entire brand principle of our show is Made in America. Recycled, eco-friendly. So because I know my customers want to find that. But whatever applies to your customers, what message you want to put out in front of them, graphically, visually, word, text-wise, and all your communication. Try not to talk Spanish to somebody who speaks French. Right?
I like that. Eric, what do you think about that?
Well, I've kind of lost my focus. I saw there was a huge police presence a few minutes ago, and I didn't know if they were here for you. But anyways, what I do want to say is that I'm really fortunate. I've worked for packaging specialties for, like I said, 24 years, and I have like fun stuff, you know, like when I have my booth out front, everyone's like, oh, I know your booth, you have all those bags and you have all that stuff, and people are intrigued by it. And I think it's important to realize how people love their brand, and once they create their identity, how they are about it. I mean, we got to a point where we used to take people's brand names and we would use it in different colors and print up different bags, and they would come to the booth and they're like, that's not my brand. I don't want it shown that way, you know, because they're used to, like, I have burgundy and gold. That's my colors. Don't use it any other format. I've been at museum shows where one time we did a museum's logo in a different color than they're not used to. And it was like, oh my God, that's not, you know, you've got to take it down. That's not. So I think the important thing that really is to look around and see what you're doing, whether you're a designer or a manufacturer, a jeweler. I keep referring to jewelers, but I mean, no matter what you make or what you create, I mean, you have to embrace everything that is around you, find your brand and what you're comfortable with, because it's your skin, it's your it's what you represent. I think people don't realize how deep it goes. I have a customer in New York City who called me up, and I was like, hi, you know, how are you? And they're like, listen, I need you to go to the store right now. And I said, what do I need to go to the store for? They're like, you're never going to believe this. People magazine came out today, and Sarah Jessica Parker came into the store, and they have a photo of her walking down the street with our bag, you know? So it was like, this is how passionate people are about their brand, and it really does go a long way. And when I say I'm passionate about it, it's exciting when somebody comes to the booth and they're like, this is what I'm gonna do, you know, because you work so hard for everything that you do. Every day you get up, and it's like, whether you're creating something or you're selling something, you have to differentiate yourself from everybody else that's out there. Everybody. And even when you walk the show, you're buying something, your product. I mean, there's not just one store selling it. So their job is to make sure that they're the go-to store. And a lot of that comes from creating a brand, creating identity, and also putting it out there so that everyone's like, oh, did you go to that shop? Did you go to that shop? So I think, you know, that's the exciting part of the whole branding thing. When you asked me to come, I was like, oh, you know, but it's really important.
It's exciting.
It is. It's like, listen, I didn't want to get up this early and do this. I would have really rather done the 2:30 shift or something. But you know what? I want you guys to know, like, it's huge. It's huge. And it doesn't mean come out to my booth right away and you're going to order your stuff, but think about it at some point in your whole business plan. Think about what you can be doing to promote your brand, and who doesn't want their brand to be out there. You know,
your brand message is so important. I'm curious too, as putting on your buyer hat, when you would walk a show, what were you looking for? Is there something that would catch your attention? It was maybe how the booth was set up, or the lighting in the booth, or, you know, the engagement of talking, you know, how people...
I think a lot of it is learning over the years. I mean, it's so interesting because even this show, I mean, this is one of my all-time favorite shows. It's always been, and it doesn't matter whether it was the Rosen show, the Acre show, whatever. But everybody here knows everybody. Everybody knows each other. And when you walk into a booth and it's warm and welcoming, that's really, sometimes I'll look at like, oh, the lights, or this guy didn't do that right, or whatever, but that's not my place to judge. But I will say, you know, when these guys have their booth in New York, like, I want to go see them. You know, that's what it's about. I want to order, I want to buy, and it's,
we also serve coffee, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, but it is important, it's important to be engaging. I noticed, and this is kind of going off track, but I just did a show out in Las Vegas, and one of the salespeople that works for me was in the booth, and she was sitting down with her computer and literally just, you know, doing stuff, and I'm like, we're not, like, this is not happening. And so I stood outside the booth and I was like, come on, you know, and I'm not a big fan of like getting in the aisle and dragging people in, but I'm like, let's at least make some commotion and be present, because you're at the show and this is what you're here for.
You have to stand out. You have to stand out in your booth. There's 500 booths for people to walk by. You have 2 seconds to capture somebody's attention. Is it going to be a word? Is it going to be you sitting on your phone reading a book? Or is it going to be your product? Choose it and attack it and know it and be out there as clean and fresh as you can.
And if you have a booth here, be aware, like, buyers are there going up and down those aisles and they're on a mission. They're not here to fool around. You know, there are certainly people that are professional trade show goers that just, you know, I sold my store 10 years ago, but I really feel the need to keep coming.
For your free coffee.
But it's like, it really is. I mean, if you're a buyer, you know what your time and value, you know, it's important. I was saying, as a buyer, I used to go and I'd be like, you know, I'd have stickers and everything else. I'd be like, here's the order form, you know, put my sticker on there, had all my business information, and just keep moving.
Yeah.
And I know anybody that's out here that has a booth loves that person, because they're coming in and they're there to buy. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so you do have to focus. But I mean, again, going back to it's not necessarily the lights or the color of the booth. That does attract people, obviously. But it's also being present and being in the moment, and also displaying your brand.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you want people to know what you're here for. And in a store, you can cut me off if I'm going too long. No, but in a store, you also have to create the story. So if I buy his wallets, I can't just like throw them over there in a case and be like, oh, that's great. You actually have to use his branding and create that story in your store so that people are going to be attracted to that. And if you pick up any of those magazines that are out in the hall I was looking at yesterday, it's all about creating the display. I mean, visual merchandising and display goes a long way with branding. It's all part of that.
And as, you know, it's up to you guys to create those assets. You know, the retailer doesn't have the bandwidth or the margin or the expertise to do that. So the easier you make it for them to create those brand stories, the better off you'll be. But, you know, one of the things about branding that I wanted to also mention is, you know, a lot of what we do is exceeding expectations. And I think, you know, just making things as easy as possible for the retailer. Because like us, you know, all of them are dealing, you know, they're wearing a lot more hats with less resources. They don't want to be asking you for an invoice or, you know, you short ship me or, you know, whatever it might be. And so just be laser focused on those pain points. And, you know, because at the end of the day, if you make it difficult for them and somebody else is going to make it easy, they're going to go the easier route. It's the path of least resistance.
I don't know if you all remember Kate's Papery, but it was a wonderful store in New York City, and I think they had 5 locations. And actually, if you haven't met Amy Lowenberg, who is the buyer relations manager here for Emerald, for New York Now, and also American Handcrafted, that's how we met. She was the buyer at Kate's Papery, and I was selling dog-eared, and we've been friends ever since. And one of the things that when I was first starting to sell to Kate's, they said it was a family-owned company, and they said, look, I have to run and get in front of the owner, and it's like he has a certain amount of money that he's allotted to each of the buyers, and the the people that get in touch with me and I can place orders first get that. And so I was on it. I was helping my buyer as much as possible. I was putting together orders for them because I knew if I could make her job easier, then I would get an order. And that was really important. And they had a lot of great product, but it's like making it easier for them. And what is that going to entail? So just getting that relationship with that buyer and finding like, what's going to be easier for you? How can I help you? Also living in, today's world where video is so important and education is so important. And they're talking a lot nowadays about millennials and having everything be experiential and educational. Take a video with your phone. Now we have all these smartphones. Take a video of making your product or of the story behind your product. It doesn't have to be pristine. I mean, get something out there. And also with your buyers, ask to speak to their associates. There's Zoom and FaceTime and Skype that you can do and answer questions and share your story, but it helps educate their team. And it's a really cool thing that we have nowadays. So I think that's really wonderful. I want to make sure that we have time for questions. So in the next couple of minutes, we're going to take questions. So does that sound good to everybody? Oh, will you mind coming up here to ask it? So we can hear you?
Guys, my name's Shara. I'm with My Wildest Dreams Studio, and I met you in Orlando, and one of the things you got on me about is I didn't have an Instagram account. So I have an Instagram account, and I've actually gotten 2 galleries as a result of it. Okay?
That's exciting.
It's been awesome. But one of the things I have no idea, I'm in my 50s, I am technically challenged, to say the least. And I'm trying to incorporate some of the advertising opportunities there. But when I do that, I get other artists, which is great, I love you guys, but I'm not selling to other artists. What tags am I supposed to be using to get the galleries and the gift shops?
Well, I would first follow galleries and gift shops, and I would follow ones that you're not doing business with now.
Right.
I would look at what's important, their core values, American made, if it's sustainable, or all of the buzzwords too. But I would also Instagram does this. I think Pinterest does it. They have business sites too that you can look at and see what are popular. And I would talk to the galleries that are already that found you on Instagram and say, what do you look for?
Okay.
And because I sometimes think we forget to ask the people we're actually trying to work with. And our customers are our best form of resource for everything. So that's what I would do.
I appreciate it. I just wanted to say thank you publicly.
Yeah, awesome.
Yay, great.
Can I just add something about the nature of competition as well? And that although we all kind of compete for the same dollars, right? In the stores, I find that some of my best advocates are my competitor. Competition. They don't make wallets necessarily, but they're in stores, right? And then they're talking to that store and saying, "Hey, do you know a good men's accessories resource?" And then we're top of mind. So it's not necessarily a bad thing from a marketing perspective. I just I think I like the whole room.
Human fun.
That's great. Any other questions? Just go ahead. You're welcome to come up here and ask questions. Yeah, great.
You're mentioning age. I'm 72 and basically in the business 25 years, was a teacher. Listening to all of you is brilliant. It's very Supreme Court, I should say that. I figured they needed robes. But and I'm going to put you on the spot on this one, but I always feel that 5% is us, our product, 95% is marketing. And out of the marketing, 50% is luck. Could you break it down? What percentage is our product, who we are, versus marketing?
And luck. It's the business of product is a big part of it, and it's really hard.
Percentage, what would it be?
Oh, percentage? I wouldn't. I represent the business side of I mean, I do creative as well, but I don't. It's different at different points of the product life cycle. It's different at different points of the year, and so it's a difficult question to answer. I mean, so I don't know how I would necessarily answer it. Maybe 90-10, like you said. But luck is a huge part of it. We were lucky early on in our business to have the right product at the right time. But then at the same time, we didn't have the right IP, and then we had the wrong knockoff, which really, so we've experienced all of that, and so it's hard to do both, really well, and so even listening to Howard talk about avatars, I'm like, ugh.
Hate it, right? I get it, yeah. But you got to do it.
Yeah, no, and so taking a step back from the business, and one of the benefits I've had over the last several years is volunteering, with one of our trade associations, the Museum Store Association, and learning how to think more strategically. And we're all sort of in the weeds every day, being very tactical and reacting. But I encourage everybody to afford yourself some time to sit back and think strategically, have these conversations like Howard's been having with these digital fictional beings. And but it's an important thing to do, and it's not something we've necessarily done consistently over the last 17 years, and we would have been better off doing it.
I would say that with Stewart-Stand, the evolution of the website, of the video, of the shots of the items, the evolution of their booth too. I mean, it's been really interesting to see how it's come, and because you're always having to look at what's next, right? And being strategic. So I really encourage you all too to step back, because working in your business all the time can be, we're all busy, right? You just get really busy, head down. So to step back and kind of look at, okay, what was working really well, what could we do better, and really take that time to look at your business a little more strategically. And marketing is a big deal. What would we? You're putting me on this spot. I would say there's a lot of fabulous product out there, and the internet has done a lot of good, and it's also been really challenging. And I would say that marketing is a good, probably 80 to 90% of it. And the reason being is that there is a lot of good product, but I've also seen a lot of not great product in a lot of stores, and that kills me. So it also is a good reminder that you do have to be out there and getting out there. And I know social media is great, but if anyone knows me, I always say, get out there and market yourself in person. Network. Get out there and go to business networking meetings. Go to gallery openings. Go to even while you're here, talk to the people. I've met people in line, waiting for the bathroom, and I was like, oh, come to my booth. I'd love to show you. Learn about them too. I kid you not. I have met some amazing people just because I open my mouth, and it's called ABS, always be sharing. Always be sharing what you do, and always be asking about other people. But I think you are your best marketing tool. So I'm sure a lot of you have had great success just in sales, that you're the person that can be passionate and share your story. But go out there and don't stay in your studio. Get out there and market yourself, because even though you can get a lot of likes on social media, what's going to get you more is getting out in front of people. Get out there and do some networking. And if you need any networking places, I have a list that I would be happy to send you of where to network. All right, any more questions?
Howard and Eric, I'm curious.
Oh,
jeez.
An idea is only worth an idea until you do something with it. So marketing and sales are why you're doing something. So it's 99% marketing and sales and 1% of an idea, but the idea could be the 100%, right?
I just want to comment that they do say that the best booth location is right near the ladies' room.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, if you're ever looking to, if you're
That's where the packaging stuff is.
well, I'm out in the hall, the lounge up there. But I just want to say to you that I think that when you ask that question, I think a lot of it is not only luck that you were talking about, but also hard work. When you say what's the percentage, it's literally, it could be 50% luck, but it's 50% hard work.
No, I mean marketing
Oh.
versus your idea.
Again, I'd probably go with the experts on that, 99%. Or wait, I should say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
I know it's late. I want to make sure you encourage you all, check us out online. I've got everyone's website up here. So I know you need to go. But, yeah.
Right here. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, thank you for your time, first of all. So I know you talk about social media a lot today. I was just wondering, we do a show here in Philadelphia. It's 45 days for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I get my card out there to everybody, and I tell them to follow us on Instagram. Do you have any recommendations as to how to get them to follow you on Instagram? Because a lot of them all say, "Yeah, I'm going to follow you," but then they don't follow you. And so to build that following up, number one, and then number two, do you have any other recommendations for SEOs as far as for an online presence, so that when people type in something related to your product, it will come up? Because with the big box stores and everything like that, it's very hard to
stand out.
To stand out. Yeah. So do you have any recommendations as far as that?
I want to just address somebody coming to your booth, taking your card, and you're asking them to follow you. Get theirs. Get their card, follow them, send them an email saying it was really great to meet you. Would love, please follow us. We rely too much on other people. You need to do it yourself. And you can still pass out your card, but you can also say, I'd really love to get your card, and if
or their email address.
Or their email.
Follow up with them.
Or what's your Instagram? I'd love to follow you.
Right.
So don't leave it in their court, because unfortunately people are busy and you forget. There's actually a name for it called executive neglect. And it's not because they don't want to, it's just sometimes they forget. So
they too have too much going on.
Right. SEO. Does anyone want to tackle SEO?
It's a big nut, and it's But in 30 seconds, there's experts that deal with that, and it's an expensive nut, and I don't think it's. I think it's evolving every day, and I don't know what's kind of false narrative and what's true in terms of the trends. What we've gotten particularly good at, and what's gone unsaid for the last hour, is talking about Amazon.
Oh.
And I've found them to be, and so something we've gotten particularly good at is what we'd effectively outsourced our marketing, outsourced our customer service, and outsourced our customer experience to resellers who are selling our products on Amazon. And so taking control, there's a lot of eyeballs on it there, putting your best brand, your best content there, controlling that channel has been the most cost-effective marketing we've done. And I'm just, not to say that we're competing with our core business, but it had such a deleterious effect on our core business for so long that we moved very strategically into it. So that's, a different SEO.
Want to find out about Amazon? He's your guy.
Well, just marketplace digital strategy is something we've gotten good at. So.
Will you come up to the mic? We're just going to keep going if that's okay, if you guys are okay.
Just to kind of build on that,
will you speak into the mic? So.
Oh, just to kind of go with that question that the other person was raising and you were talking about. A very close friend of mine has a business building fire bowls, and he was like the very first person on the market, but he built his business through Twitter and commenting and he was living in the middle of nowhere in order to make his stuff, and he built it up through Twitter, and it was amazing. And he met all these wonderful people and just engaged them in conversation and struck up friendships. And then he also built his own website on WordPress. And this was, a little while ago, and he did really, really well. And his complaint for the last 5-6 years, as sales have been going down and down, he's like, nobody's finding me. He's like, I don't come up in the searches the way I used to on the web, and he doesn't know. And then there's been other people that he had to sue that outright copied him, and then they're still building things that his price point is higher and making less, and their price point is lower and making more. And so there's these two avenues of like, no one's finding him, and how does he adjust to more like people becoming established in the marketplace also.
It's constant. You have to be. It's a constant looking at your business. How can you, if something's not working, you got to pivot. And that pivot may be reaching out to his existing customers and saying, hey, I grow my business based on referral. Would love, who do you feel would be interested in my product? And maybe giving them some sort of incentive to refer, and if that person buys, then to do something for them. But it's pivoting. You can't, if something's not working, don't keep going there. Look at something else. And that's probably the biggest challenge of this social media world we're living in, is because algorithms change constantly. I can't tell you, I've worked with designers who on Etsy were killing it on Etsy and making a lot of money because they got a lot of business, and all of a sudden within a year they were half of what they were getting, and it's been detrimental to their business. They had to pivot, and it takes a while to recover from that. And I do feel like you need to diversify your product outreach. So if you're just doing one thing, it's inevitable that's going to change. So have multiple ways of reaching a customer.
And I think, for us, we resentfully went into those channels, right? It wasn't like, I was excited about it. But having those channels serve you and not you serve them is important, that you use them to serve your brand in the best way for you, and being kind of understanding the ecosystem, the incentives, etc., and just,
You have to look for as many channels to create money that you can have, whether it's through Amazon, whether it's through Instagram, whether it's through trade shows. You used to, a decade ago, you just had to do your half a dozen trade shows a year, and you got 70% of your business, and the rest came from reorders, and it was relatively, and some advertising in the local trade, in our trades. And it's not that way anymore. There are 3 or 4 or 5 other ways that you have to participate in finding cheese and finding money. Amazon's one of them. Any one of them, you have to begin to evolve towards understanding them, because that's where parts of those opportunities all lie.
And I think one of the beautiful things about these channels that we've used them, we've enjoyed using them, is they give you so much data. The feedback is so quick. And so knowing how to access that data, knowing how to internalize it and have it inform not just who you're targeting, but the kind of product you develop, right? You can use that information to really strategically, influence your business.
Well, it goes back to, it really comes to, what do you want? So just because something's not working, I think one of the challenges I hear from creatives is that, well, I want more business. But what is that to you? Because it's different for everybody. More business may be, $20,000 more. It may be $100,000 more. So you really need to get clear on what that is for you. So know your dream client, know what you want for your business financially. So.
Yeah.
I know we've got to get you to your booth. We'll just wrap it up after this.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for arriving late, and maybe you covered this. Did you talk about Google and about the fact that they are asking for a fee to list you?
Oh, welcome to the ever-changing social media. It's just I feel like that's not unusual anymore. I think that's changing. It'll keep changing. If they feel, I think if people feel like they can make money. Don't you feel that way?
I have a shop in St. Michael's, as well as we do this wholesale show, and they called me and said they're going to ask me to pay $300 to be listed? I don't know.
Yeah, there's also, I mean,
I was like, is this a scam?
It might be. It might be a scam.
That is.
Okay,
I'm going to go with the scam.
What?
I'm going to go with the scam, yeah.
100%.
Because I kind of, asked more than.
That's SEO scam stuff.
That's
That's somebody trying to
okay.
sell you the idea that you need to be
Do this.
listed, and it's not that.
I appreciate
You might have to pay to list.
But I wouldn't be surprised if things
Yeah.
start charging.
No.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I know we need to wrap up and people need to get to the booth. So thank you all so much. Thank you all for.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
So awesome. Thank you. Sorry to keep you guys so late.